Today's episode was sponsored by Rocket Money.
Greetings, schools, Willie here. And as you can probably tell just by looking at me, I am not very good with money. I've made all sorts of dumb purchases in my day. A solar-powered flashlight, the movie rights to my neighbor's dog, boat owner's insurance. I don't own a boat. I just had to use the restroom, and one thing led to another. The other day, I think I may have reached a new low, though. You see, I ran into this traveling salesman, and he told me that he would sell me a bag of magic beans guaranteed to grow into a mighty stalk that would take me to a land above the clouds full of riches beyond my wildest dreams. So naturally, I went home and emptied out my life savings to buy them. I brought them home, planted them in my backyard, and as I'm sure you've already guessed, they did grow into a mighty stalk, but I was not a good enough climber to get to the top. Not sure why I thought I could make it above the clouds. I can barely make it up the stairs. So now I have this massive beanstalk jutting out of my lawn, and my neighbors are threatening to sue me if I don't pay to have it removed. Which is difficult because, lest you forget, I emptied out my bank account to buy it. My only option was to hire 3 trained Sherpas to make the climb for me and hope that once they get up to the top, they find enough to take care of the beanstalk removal and the home repair. Those giant roots destroyed my foundation. Of course, if they don't find anything, then now I'm liable for their fees on top of the maintenance costs, but no, they'll definitely find something. The salesman wasn't lying. The beanstalk grew. Although, how would he know where the beanstalk leads? I planted it in an arbitrary location. Also, I've been in airplanes before, and I know there's nothing up there. Oh, this is bad. Whatever, though. This is all a long way of saying that I need help saving money wherever I can get it. And that's why I use Rocket Money. If you're wasting your money on subscriptions you don't use, then you might as well just be taking handfuls of cash and lighting them on fire, because it's basically the same thing. Actually, no. The subscriptions are worse because at least with the fire, you get a heat source. Unfortunately, just canceling them is a lot harder than it sounds. I, for example, don't know what subscriptions I'm signed up for. I probably should, but I don't, and now, thanks to Rocket Money, I don't have to. Rocket Money provides you with a list of all your recurring charges, and then with just a few taps, cancels them for you. It might even be able to get you refunds on some of the money you've already spent. I think my favorite feature, though, is the in-app negotiator. Rocket Money will automatically scan your bills in order to find savings you may be missing, and then it'll actually negotiate those bills for you when possible. Meaning I don't need to make phone calls to customer service. Which is good, because usually when that happens, I end up spending more money. If saving money sounds like something you'd be interested in, and I'm not sure why it wouldn't be, then go to rocketmoney.com/WillieMuse or click the link in the description below to get started for free. And then once you see how great the free version is, you can unlock even more features by upgrading to premium. So yeah, thank you so much to Rocket Money, and now let's get on with the video. I really hope that those Sherpas I hired are able to find treasure at the top of that giant beanstalk. I hate that the most unbelievable part of this story is the idea that I could be a homeowner. A few weeks ago, I made a video about Heather, the first contestant in the history of Top Model to be diagnosed as autistic. And though that video is fairly long, I finished it feeling like I still had more to say on the subject. With that in mind, I decided to do a follow-up. And since the first video I made was about the first episode she appeared in, I figured it only makes sense that the next video I make should be about the last episode she appeared in. Not a lot of thought goes into what I choose to talk about on this channel. But yeah, this is season 9, episode 11. The girls go on go-sees adventures. I just realized saying that this is episode 911. It's not appropriate. Still, if you ignore that number, this isn't a particularly memorable episode. I feel like you can tell by the title. Normally, episodes are named after a noteworthy moment in them, but this one is just named after the challenge. And that challenge happens every season. I feel like even the biggest top model fan would have trouble telling you what happens here based on title alone. And that makes sense because not a lot does happen. This episode's kind of dull. Had it not been Heather's last appearance, I don't think I ever would have chosen it as the subject for a video. But in a weird way, I think that actually makes it the perfect subject for a video. I feel like some top model episodes are standalone stories with a beginning, middle, and end all their own, whereas others are just pieces in a larger season designed to move us closer to the finale. I think the previous episode I discussed was the former. It was about the protagonist Heather fighting against the challenges of her autism in order to take the best photo of the week. It's not particularly interesting as far as narratives go, but if you tried hard enough, I think you could map it onto Freytag's pyramid pretty easily. This episode is firmly the latter, though. It's just a bunch of stuff that happens. And while again, that makes it kind of dull, it also gives us a better look at Heather's treatment in the overall season, because I do think that it changes a little bit after that first episode. Don't get me wrong, her storyline is always the same. It's basically just she's autistic. But after that first episode, it never felt like the show quite knew what to do with her. She was never the protagonist again after that. She was always kind of just there. And that's honestly a bit weird because she had been doing pretty well. She took great photos, got a special shout out from Enrique Iglesias apparently, and I don't think she was ever even close to the bottom. Well, at least not before last week.
In the bottom too because I did so terribly with my commercial. And I had to have my lines read to me.
Because every woman is a queen.
Because every woman is a queen.
I think that this is supposed to be the moment where her neurodivergence catches up to her. She had trouble doing the commercial, and as a result, she's the only contestant who had to have her lines fed to her by Jay.
You were worried because Jay had to feed you the lines. They didn't even bring that up that much. They didn't like the whole fact that I got an advantage.
I don't think that Lisa should have gone home at the CoverGirl commercial. If I would have had my lines read to me, I don't think that it would have been acceptable.
All right, calm down. It's not like you didn't get help too, Chantal.
Inside every woman is a queen. Now there's a makeup to bring out the queen in you. The CoverGirl queen line. Dang it. Okay, let me say that one more time. Okay.
What's the name of the product?
CoverGirl queen collection?
Okay, say it again. What's the name of the product?
CoverGirl queen collection.
That said, though, I do agree. I think that if one contestant needs their lines read to them, then all the contestants should have the opportunity to have their lines read to them. Also, I don't think that Lisa should have been eliminated. I think it probably should have been Chantal. Heather absolutely should not get special treatment just because she has autism, but that said, I'm not sure that she was necessarily.
I do have a disability. It's Asperger's syndrome. It does affect the way I pay attention and the way I react around people. As a queen, commercials and line reading was not my strongest point.
I think it's pretty clear what this scene is trying to tell us. Heather's autism made it difficult for her to remember her lines, and because of that, Jay had to feed them to her. If you watch the episode, though, that's not really what happens. It seems like her problem is that she's in her head more than anything. I think she remembers her lines just fine. They just can't get a clean take of her saying them because she makes faces every time she messes up.
Take one. In every woman, there's a queen. Now there's a makeup. Like,
She looks gorgeous.
in every. Ugh.
Don't think about the words too much. Just let it flow. If you make a mistake, keep going.
CoverGirl's queen.
It's gonna make it really hard for us to edit. If every 2 seconds you go, if you make a mistake, just stop.
And smile.
Yeah.
The CoverGirl Queen Collection, because every woman is a queen.
And I'll be honest, I'm not sure if that's an autistic thing. I mean, that's what all of my footage looks like, so it's certainly a Willy thing, and if the commenters are to be believed, those are pretty much interchangeable. But even if it is her autism, I would still say that this scene is deceptive. It feels like the show is implying that her poor performance in the challenge last week was essentially a symptom. But if it was a symptom, it was not the symptom they're saying it was. Listen to what she says again.
I do have a disability. It's Asperger's syndrome. It does affect the way I pay attention and the way I react around people. Is a queen. Commercials and line reading was not my strongest point.
No single sentence I just showed you leads directly into the next. And that, plus the fact that it was clearly edited, leads me to believe that this was edited. She definitely said that she had Asperger's, and she definitely said that line readings weren't her strong suit. But I'm not sure that those two statements were a part of the same thought until the editors hastily strung them together. It seems like the show has a clear vision for what they want Heather's autism to be. And I think that might be one of the reasons it lost interest in her a little bit, because I don't think that that vision necessarily aligns with reality. I might be completely wrong, but my theory with Heather is that when she auditioned, they heard form of autism and thought it would be much more severe than it actually was. If we're being honest, she does feel like a bit of a different character in this episode. I think that last time there were more people around to talk about her, and that allowed the show to more easily paint her as who other people thought she was. Now there are only 5 girls left, which means that more people are talking to her, and that makes it that much harder for them to tell the audience who she is. Instead, we get to decide for ourselves. And I'm not sure that the people making this are happy about that. As you've probably already guessed from the title, the challenge this week is Go Sees. And seeing as they do that every season, I feel like I've probably already explained what that means before. Actually, no, I don't think that I have. Man, I gave up on that Cycle 6 deep dive a lot sooner than I realized. Okay, so if you don't know, go-sees are when models go to different clients and see them. It's basically a job interview. I don't know why they call it that.
Today is a go-see day. In Chinese, we say 面试. A go-see is a meeting with the client who will decide whether or not to book you for a job.
We are so we're just like, oh my God, we're gonna have go-sees. That's like the best challenge ever. That's what Top Model is all about.
For the challenge, the girls are given... Actually, no, I can't move on without saying something. Why is Celicia's hair like that? And to be clear, I know why Celicia's hair is like that. That's the makeover they chose for her, but even still, why like that? If you were to ask me at the beginning of the season, I probably would have said that Celicia could pull off literally any makeover they gave to her, but I guess that this one is the exception that proves the rule. She looks like she's about to tell me my princess is in another castle. Celicia is the eventual winner of the season, and I think that she's probably one of the more controversial contestants to ever take the crown. Not because of her haircut, although that certainly didn't help matters. I think that the main thing that's said about her is that she was shown favoritism. A lot of people think that she was chosen as the winner before the season even started. And that's not completely unfounded. Not only did she appear as a real world model on an episode of Cycle 6 that I did make it to, but she also apparently attended Tyra Banks' self-esteem camp for girls called T-Zone. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I'm picturing one of those places in the desert where they kidnap the kids in the middle of the night. Even still, though, I'm not sure that she was a plant. Or if she was, I don't think that it super matters. If she was hand-selected by Tyra, that just means that Tyra liked her. And since making Tyra like you is basically the entire game, then I'd still call her win legitimate. Frankly, I don't think that Tyra has the attention span for a plant. I feel like even if she liked you at the beginning of the competition, there's no guarantee that she won't turn on you for something stupid a few weeks in. So the fact that Talisha managed to remain Tyra's favorite until the end means that she must have done something right. And I think that that's the real reason that Talisha is so controversial. In my last video, I talked about Cassandra, the pageant queen who chose to leave instead of cutting off an inch of her hair. And I kind of think that Talisha is what would have happened if Cassandra had stayed. That bowl cut is Tyra finally getting her Mia Farrow look. Not literally, of course. Mia Farrow would never. Tyra has a lot of ideas, some good, some batshit, about what the girls need to do to win the competition. And I think that Talisha is what it looks like when someone manages to internalize all of them. You know, she won. Anyway, for the challenge, the girls are given a list of local designers, a means of transportation, and a portfolio full of all the pictures they've taken. And the goal is to go out and book as many clients as they can. And just in case running around in a foreign land and getting judged by a bunch of strangers wasn't stressful enough, the challenge also comes with a strict time limit. If the girls aren't back by 6 p.m. on the dot, they will be disqualified.
Let me explain to you guys why we have a time limit that you have to be back. Because at the end of that day, you'll have a job, or you'll have a flight that you have to catch. So that's where we're testing. We're testing your time management because there's big opportunity a lot of the times at the end of those go-sees.
Oh, bullshit. There's a time limit because it adds drama, and probably because there's a certain amount of time you're allowed to film in one day. It's allowed to just be a game sometimes. You don't always have to pretend like everything is designed to prepare them for the real world of modeling. Especially because if that is your goal, this is a terrible way to do it. I'm not a model, but I feel very confident that this challenge in no way resembles actual go-sees. It kind of feels the same as when I got extra time in high school and the other kids would be like, well, you're not going to get extra time when you have a job. And it's like, yeah, motherfucker, I'm also not going to be taking any timed exams when I have a job. Also, I ended up doing this, so I probably didn't need to bother with the tests in the first place. There are very few situations in adult life where someone is going to hit a stopwatch and say, go! I feel like the real world equivalent of extra time on a test is just working longer. If someone needs more time to finish something, then it's on them to adjust their schedule as needed so they can get it done. And I would argue that that's what they should be testing the girls on if they really want to see who's cut out to be a model. Their ability to manage their lives as a whole, not this quick burst bullshit. Tyra says she wants to see their time management skills, but I would argue that this doesn't really count as time management because they've been put on a schedule. Someone else is literally managing their time for them. Also, the parts of this challenge that actually do require time management are not great gauges for what the girls are capable of. A lot of them are late, but that's mostly because they didn't know that traffic got that bad in Shanghai during rush hour. on account of they've only been there for like a day. I don't think that says much about their skill as a model. Still, though I think this challenge is deeply stupid, I also think it's the most important thing they do all season. Like I said, they do it every year, and I get why that is. Honestly, I think the case could be made that whoever wins this challenge should win the whole show. Being a professional model more or less depends on being able to book clients, so if they could find a way to make this work without a ticking clock over it, I do think it would be the best way to tell which contestant has the most potential. Of course, it's a good thing that they never did that, because if they did, it would be really, really boring. This challenge is basically just a race. The only interesting part of it is seeing who makes it back in time. The actual go-sees are fairly ancillary. The more clients you book, the better, but based on the rules as I understand them, a girl who books 5 clients and is 1 minute late loses to a girl who books 0 clients but shows up 10 minutes early. Presumably there's a chance you win if you just sit there for 3 hours and hope everyone else loses track of time. Also, they're not that interesting on their own. If this challenge has any tension, it's because of the editors, who absolutely bring their A game here. Like, I'm not sure if you guys remember that show 24, but parts of this episode remind me of that show 24.
Good luck, ladies.
There's cabs outside for us, and we're gonna have a translator.
不要跟着其他车，就是到旁边嘛，就南京东路。
南北高架的时候，
直接下来可以吧？
Don't go fast. Burn rubber.
The music is also doing a lot of heavy lifting here. The backing tracks sound like something a video game would use to tell you that your character's running out of air, and that makes things seem a lot more dramatic than they actually are.
So he puts me in this dress, and it's sheer, and I'm like, oh no. Because I know I'm not wearing nude underwear, and I'm supposed to be. I'm wearing like bright pink underwear and black lace. He was just so distracted that he didn't even care about my walk.
Make sure you can wear the skin tone underwear.
Take it away, and
So he puts me in this dress, and it's sheer, and I'm like, oh no. Because I know I'm not wearing nude underwear, and I'm supposed to be. I'm wearing like bright pink underwear and black lace. He was just so distracted that he didn't even care about my walk.
Make sure you can wear the skin tone underwear.
the fact that the tension is all manufactured means that it's very easy for them to make it go away, and they do that to great effect when Heather is on screen. Like I said, they're currently setting her up to go home, so they need to make it very clear to us that she doesn't just do badly in this challenge, she bombs it. And to be fair, she does bomb it. She only manages to find 1 designer of the 5 she's supposed to meet, but the way the show portrays it makes it seem like the other 4 girls are locked in trying to win, while Heather is just off in her own world, doing her Heather thing.
I still couldn't find the first go-see. Every time I got directions, excuse me, you always seem to point me in the wrong direction. I'm wasting so much time. I know Tyra's going to be pissed. I know she's going to be pissed.
She's portrayed as almost comically inept. She's so lost here that the fact that she manages to find 1 client is treated like something of a miracle.
I still couldn't find the first go-see. I'm needing to find 789 East Nanjing Road.
Yeah. Yes.
It's here?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God, you gotta be kidding.
Oh, thank you, God.
And again, she certainly doesn't do great, but I also don't think she does that much worse than everyone else. Like I said, she could have seen all the designers and it wouldn't have mattered because she doesn't make it back on time. And neither do Chantal or Jenna. In all fairness, Heather is the latest, but she's really not that far behind. It's not hard to figure out a timeline here.
I was 40 minutes late.
Just before her was Chantal.
I was 20 minutes late.
Meaning that Heather was 20 minutes behind the next latest contestant. So while that's not great, I don't think it's quite as egregious as the show is making it seem, especially because the fact that she was late wasn't necessarily her fault. She actually did try to get back sooner.
All right, thank you. Couldn't find the next designer. I got lost again, and I'm scared that, I'm gonna be disqualified. So I had to go back to the agency. But I lost my cabbie. I feel like such a dumbass.
And we know that she tried to give herself a reasonable travel window because we know how much time Jenna gave herself.
I gave myself half hour for traffic, but I needed 45 minutes.
And the two of them ran into each other while Jenna was headed back to the agency.
So I'm sitting in traffic, I look up, Heather.
Heather is painted almost like she's a lost child. And while I certainly wouldn't say that she's a master of directions, I also don't think she's quite as helpless as the show seems to want us to think. If I ignore the editing and look at the situation based on the facts I know, it seems like Heather was trying to navigate one of the largest cities in the world where she doesn't speak the language, and she had a little trouble, which happens. She did manage to find one of the places she was looking for, which is not nothing, and after that she decided to try and get back to the agency before time ran out, because like I said, punctuality is the most important part of this challenge. I can't say for sure how much wiggle room she gave herself, but it does seem like she had been looking for her cabbie for a while by the time she ran into Jenna.
What's wrong? What? What's going on? I can't find my cabbie.
Sorry. Heather.
So it's entirely possible that she was the first person to try and turn around. She realized that she took a long time finding the first go-see and thought it would be better to just turn back with one than press her luck and try to find another. For all we know, she would have gotten back on time if she had been able to find her ride. And while I'm certainly not saying that production decided it was her time to go, so they told the driver to hide somewhere for a while so that she'd be late, I am saying that that's enough of a possibility that we can't say for sure that the outcome of this challenge is a reflection on Heather. And I don't know, maybe that's obvious, but I still feel the need to say it because it very much seems like the show is saying the opposite.
You got made on time?
I was the first one here. I was here before.
Wandering around the street?
Yeah, this is.
Okay. Oh my gosh, there you are.
Heather never outright says I'm bad at directions because I'm autistic, but watching this part in the context of the entire season, it's hard to draw any other conclusions. Like I said, the show never lets you forget about her diagnosis. Just look at the one go-see she does make it to. It feels very pointed.
Oh, I'm all right. My first one was Florazita.
It is important to me that you have very good eye contact.
Oh God, I feel so embarrassed about even talking to the designer.
I need you to walk for me. Do once more that has eye contact.
I guess I don't really know how long go-sees are, but they're certainly longer than what they show us. So the fact that they edited this one down and still felt the need to have the designers say the same thing twice suggests that the editors really wanted us to pay attention to that thing. Tyra said they're trying to test their time management. And based on what we see, Jenna is way worse at time management than Heather.
Do you have time to try out another one?
Yeah.
They don't really highlight that though. In the context of the episode, her not getting back in time just feels like she's being cocky, but Heather just isn't capable of keeping up with everyone else. And again, I think that's the underlying thesis of this episode. Heather's autism limits what she can do, and that means that no matter how many pretty pictures she takes, she can never be a top model. That said, though, I think the fact that she does take a lot of pretty pictures makes it harder for the producers to eliminate her. And because of that, a lot of this episode feels like they're doing what they can to justify their decision. The photo shoot, for example, really feels like it was designed to set people up to fail. Because it's terrible. Normally I try to recreate the photo shoots, but the only ideas for how to do this one I could think of felt racist, so I'm just going to show you guys a picture of my cat instead. The concept behind it is China, I guess. They're in China, so it seems like they were trying to take photos that felt Chinese. Basically, they're posing with those really cool dragon puppets you see in parades, and the goal is to try and stand out in front of a background where a lot is happening. None of them really do. Those puppets are pretty big, so in order to fit multiple in frame, they had to zoom out pretty far, and that means that the models are kind of hard to make out. Also, the puppets were moving during the photo shoot, so you don't even get to enjoy that aspect of it because they're all blurry. There's a lot of blur in these photos. Honestly, staring at them for too long gives me a bit of a headache. And then just to make things that much worse, the girls are not all on equal footing. Literally. They're posing on stairs, and for whatever reason, they make Heather and Jenna stand higher up, which means that they are further back, which is not helpful when the goal of the photo is to try and stand out. I think they knew they needed the bottom two to be Heather and Jenna. Heather because they wanted to eliminate her, and Jenna because she's the only person with photos that are able to compete with Heather's. Unfortunately, they each still end up taking relatively good photos, so they have to think of other reasons to put them on the chopping block. For Heather, that means focusing on her poor performance in the go-sees. And for Jenna, that means, well, basically just telling her that they hate her as a person. If Top Model were strictly a talent competition, then Jenna would be one of the most decisive winners of all time. Really, the only negative critiques she ever got were about her personality, which is weird because I don't think that hers is the personality that needs critiquing. The photographer for this week's photo shoot is Nigel.
We're going to have lots of chaos going on, all this great sort of dragons and lions, and you have to stand out. I'm going to help you as much as possible.
With Nigel being the judge, it's like a million times more important than any shoot that we've ever had.
And watching him interact with the girls, I realized something. I strongly dislike Nigel. He's a weird combination of boring and arrogant. Also, I feel like if you're a straight guy who makes their living judging women, that is a bit of a red flag. I think the moment that cemented my opinion on him was this.
The thing is that, I'm a judge, and that does make an impression on a lot of girls, and I don't want that to affect you.
You guys, you're just like, I know it's me, and I'm so beautiful and wonderful, but you guys, don't get starstruck. I feel like fainting, Nigel, you're right in front of me, oh goodness.
And here's the thing, I am 100% on Jenna's side right now. She absolutely smoked his ass, but still, I do get how what she said could feel a little bit overly familiar. That said, though, I get why she might be overly familiar. It's kind of hard to gauge where their relationship is at right now. She sees Nigel a lot, but this is also the first one-on-one time they've ever had, so it feels like she's trying to take their relationship to the next level by joking around with him a little bit. I would do the same thing. If I'm ever really mean to you, it's because I like you. Or really hate you, but either way, it means that I'm confident enough in whatever our relationship is that I'm not worried that you might hate me. I think what Jenna said was meant in jest, but if Nigel doesn't feel like they're there yet, it's not going to read that way. They've essentially been working together for however long the season's been going on, and I think Jenna is looking at him like a coworker, while Nigel is looking at her like an employee. So from his perspective, I get why he feels like she's out of line. But if that's the case, then he should set her straight. If he thinks that Jenna is someone who needs to be put in her place around him, then he should be able to put her in her place. He doesn't do that, though. I think he knows that she schooled him, so he just retreats and acts like nothing happened.
The sarcasm is rich. The sarcasm is rich. Okay.
And you know, I think that would also be a fine way to handle the situation. It's certainly what I would do, but he doesn't just drop it. He waits until judging and brings it up there.
Had great pictures week after week after week. However, and this is the big however, okay? Your sense of humor is, you've got to be careful with it. You're kind of sarcastic.
You're like fainting, Nigel. You're right in front of me. Oh, goodness.
Oh, the sarcasm is rich. It comes off as arrogant. Be careful, because you're stepping on a very fine line right now.
Being embarrassed that someone isn't intimidated by you is one thing, but being so embarrassed that someone isn't intimidated by you that you carry those emotions to a second location is so much worse. And what makes it extra annoying is he's still trying to play it cool. He does that thing where he's like, I'm okay with it, but other people might not be as understanding as me. And it's like, no, dude, she clearly hurt your feelings. Just own it. I've talked before about elimination fodder, the girls that I believe are kept around for the sole purpose of being eliminated. And I kind of think that Jenna is the ultimate form of one. She's never going to be bad enough to earn a spot in the bottom, but because she's a little sarcastic, they're able to twist her actions to justify putting her there when they want to. It kind of seems like they decided that they didn't like her personality a while ago, but they were just waiting for the right time to bring it up. Just look at how ready Tyra is to jump in.
There's a certain way of making a joke with somebody that you are subordinate to. No matter how famous you are, that day, that photographer is your boss. Another thing that I noticed with you is kind of I don't need this, and I'm better than this, and I'm bored. And all that comes across.
She had that locked and loaded. Like I said, I think they knew they needed Jenna to be in the bottom because she's the only person who could go up against Heather in a head-to-head.
Both of you take probably the strongest pictures out of all of the 5 girls in this room right now. Both of you guys have something when it comes to communication.
So it kind of seems like someone started the judging panel by saying, all right, this is the week that we bring up her personality. And then Nigel was like, oh, that works out perfectly. She actually made me cry earlier. And yeah, they don't even try to hide the fact that this is all about her personality.
Jenna, amazing photos, but an attitude that turns off the judges.
With Heather, though, it feels like they are trying to keep their reasons a bit hidden.
With you, Heather, if you're so fantastic to us judges and on photo shoots,
but you can't make it to a go-see. It's nearly impossible for you to book a job.
Where does Heather stand in this industry?
I don't know what she actually said after, but it certainly wasn't what they just played. The first half of that sentence sounds like it was recorded into a microphone, and the rest sounds like Tyra whispered it into a tin can on a string.
And on photo shoots,
but you can't make it to a go-see. It's nearly impossible for you to book a job.
If AI had existed when this episode came out, I absolutely would have assumed that that was AI. Whatever Tyra actually said there is lost to the ages, because I don't think they really wanted the audience to know. I think to hear her tell Heather the actual reason for her decision, you need to go back to the last episode.
Mr. J said, when being fed lines one at a time, you were not able to mimic the performance and you just totally struggled. Why were you repeating after Jay?
I was having a little trouble with the lines.
So Jay fed you the lines, and I'm gonna be hard on you, because this is a fair competition and has to be fair. We're not gonna say, oh my God, Heather, you needed to remember it all. We understand we invited you into this competition, and we know that you have Asperger's, and we know that there's ADHD, and there's other things. So then your lines get thrown at you. So that's like a little favoritism that I'm sure some of the girls are like, that's not fair. So if he's delivering you lines, then every line should have been fantastic.
In my mind, that was Heather's actual elimination speech. When they do decide to keep her for another week, they don't really give a good reason. They're kind of just like, yeah, sure, whatever.
The judges felt, you know what, Heather, there's something there, and maybe she shouldn't get sent home.
It seems like the show basically decided it was time to stop the charade. They did their good deed by including this neurodivergent girl and shedding some light on the cause, but now it's time to face the facts that she's never actually going to be able to make it in the real world of modeling.
They kept her around for another week because they didn't want it to look like they were eliminating an autistic girl for being autistic, but their mind was already made up.
I think the sad truth is that Heather was never going to win. She was a gimmick. She was never a potential candidate for America's Next Top Model. And I think that really sucks because of all the candidates for America's Next Top Model, I think she had the most potential. I've talked a few times about the way the show likes to say that it's a training ground for the real world of modeling, and I think I may need to go on a longer rant about that now because it really is bullshit. I feel like Top Model is kind of like if you sent your kid to Little League camp for a week, and one of the days was spent learning about public relations, one was spent learning about brand deals, and one was focused on contract negotiations. Like, yes, if you are one of the few people playing in the major leagues, those are skills you'll need to know. But you're never going to get there until you work your way up by practicing the fundamentals first. And if that's the case, then it raises the question, what are the fundamentals? What's the modeling equivalent of field drills and batting practice? And really, I think it's just existing as a human. Unless you're a dog model, in which case you'd be existing as a dog. For as much as the show tries to intellectualize and overcomplicate things, at its core, being a model is actually pretty simple. I think so long as you can wear clothes and show up on camera, you can do it. Sorry to vampires, I guess. Just as I can pick up a bat and glove and play baseball in my backyard, I can grab a camera, throw on some clothes, and show them off to whoever will look. And I will be modeling. Of course, a couple of photos you take of yourself does not make you Tyra Banks, just as one pickup game doesn't make you Cal Ripken. Why do I know who Cal Ripken is? You need to be good at what you do to get to the next level. So the question then becomes, what does it mean to be good? With baseball, the answer is easy. It's a game with clear objectives, so the more capable you are at achieving those objectives, the better you are. It's mathematical enough that it can be broken down into statistics. Or so I'm told. I think ANTM is built on the fact that what constitutes good modeling is a little more complicated, but even still, I think it has just as clear of an objective. And that's to entice people. And I don't mean that in a sexual way, although that certainly could be part of it. I literally mean you need to entice people. You need to be able to grab their attention and be appealing enough to keep it once you have. There was a moment in the Cassandra episode that really stuck with me.
You know what she reminds me of, guys? She reminds me of a socialite's daughter.
Which is actually what modelling used to be in England. Before I came along in the mid-60s, I was the first working class model.
We don't say working class, we say ghetto.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I'm ghetto then.
Twiggy's ghetto.
I think about that clip a lot for obvious reasons, but I wanted to play it now because I think it's a good reminder that what constitutes a top model is always changing. In case you didn't know, Twiggy was a huge deal in her day. She was one of the first people who could accurately be described as a supermodel. And like she said in that clip, she was very different from what came before her. It's funny reading about her now because everything talks about her unconventional beauty and androgynous look, and to a modern eye, she sort of just looks like a pretty girl. And that's because she changed things. She was different, but in a way that made other people want to be different in the same way. And really, I think that's what a model does. They give people an ideal to aspire to. And not only is that ideal always changing, more and more, it's becoming different for everyone. I think that Top Model suffers a bit from the fact that Tyra Banks was in her prime during the last hurrahs of monoculture. When she was around, the idea of a top model was still a thing because everyone was looking in the same direction, so that meant it was possible to have all eyes on you. I think that's why Tyra is, for lack of a better word, batshit. She wanted to be on top at a time when being on top meant appealing to everyone, and that meant contorting herself into this impossible being in a way that left her a bit warped. I think that's why I have trouble criticizing her too hard. Even though a lot of the stuff she says and does is really shitty, I don't think it's ever wrong. I think her goal with this show is to teach people how to become her. And if that is her goal, then I think that giving good advice and perpetuating a cycle are one and the same. If my comments are to be believed, not a lot of you guys watching this love Tyra Banks. And I get that, but for as Tyra as she is, I do think it's important to remember that she was a bit of a trailblazer. She was the first Black woman to appear on the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. First in 1996 alongside Valeria Mazza, and then again the next year on her own. And it's hard to really explain how big of a deal the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue was, but like, imagine if Pornhub was only available once a year and it was delivered in the mail. Being on the cover more or less meant that you were the personification of desire. So the fact that she managed to do it is really significant because society as a whole has not always treated Black women as desirable. For her to have become such a singular figure in culture meant that she had to learn to appeal to everyone. And that probably meant tamping down certain aspects of who she was so that people would accept her. Tyra is clearly interested in changing the standards of beauty. I just think that she was forged in a world where in order to do that, you also needed to conform to the standards long enough that people would be willing to look your way and learn to appreciate what makes you different. She had to change herself into the ideal before she could change what the ideal was. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that the world is like that anymore. I think by the time the show started airing, there wasn't just one ideal. Appealing to everyone had become impossible, so what it meant to be on top had changed. A lot of people from Top Model went on to have big careers. It was a breeding ground for actors and Real Housewives, and one of them was on Shark Tank once. That was weird. Still, as far as being a model is concerned, there's one contestant that's heads and tails above the rest. She's the closest that anyone from that show has ever come to being a top model, and I don't think it's a coincidence that she famously embraced the thing that makes her different. Her name is Winnie Harlow, although she went by a different name on the show that I don't know what it is because I had stopped watching at that point. And she has vitiligo. And while I certainly wouldn't say that that made becoming a model easier for her, I do think that once she managed to get her foot in the door, it helped her stand out. It makes her memorable and unique and honestly just looks cool, and I have to imagine that she's very important to a lot of people out there who get to see someone who looks like them be celebrated for who they are. I'm sure at first she couldn't even book a job. I bet when she started out, people tried to get her to bleach her skin and do what she could to look like everyone else. And had she done that, I sincerely doubt I'd even know who she was right now. She embraced what made her different and became a new ideal. And while she's not Tyra, she doesn't appeal to everyone. I do think there will probably come a day where my kids will read about her and her unconventional beauty and think, what the fuck are they talking about? That is the most conventionally hot person I've ever seen. And I don't think that Heather was ever going to be Tyra Banks or even Winnie Harlow, but I could see her being up there. The thing that pissed me off the most about how they treated her is that it never really felt like she got credit for how good she was. Any successes she had were in spite of herself, not because of it.
And I think everyone's going to like Heather, at least her look. The problem is she can't communicate very well.
How is she in front of the camera? Can she move? Can she...
She does, but it's like a disconnect. She doesn't move for the camera. It's almost as if the camera just sees this beautiful thing and zones in on it.
Yeah.
Is that not just modeling? Sounds like you got your shot. They loved Heather's look, but they treated everything else about her like some sort of liability. It seems like they wanted to keep the hardware, but replace the operating system with Tyra 2.0. I'm really curious what could have happened if instead of trying to change her, they had worked on teaching her to embrace what makes her stand out. Imagine how much further she could have gone if she took the energy she had spent struggling to conform to everyone else and instead put it to honing what she already had. Like, yeah, she's not great at reading lines, but everyone agreed she had the look, and I could totally see a world where that was a good enough starting off point. One of the things she got criticized for the most was her walk, and I get why that was. She certainly does walk autistically.
Do once more that has eye contact.
But I still don't get why that was treated like a bad thing for a show that spent whole episodes teaching people about signature walks. It feels weird that they'd see a contestant walk differently and try to change that. If she went to enough castings, I could see her finding a designer who found her lack of eye contact on the runway interesting and made her their muse. And then once people saw her being used correctly, they'd understand her better and realize how she might fit into other quarters of the fashion world. And as she got hired more and more, eventually she'd catch the eye of some enterprising individual in the crowd of a fashion show who'd want to know more about that raven-haired beauty who didn't make eye contact. And when they found out that she's autistic, they'd think, that's a hook. I can sell that. So they'd use their connections to get more and more eyes on her, and her star would continue to rise. And one day, a little autistic girl would see her picture in a magazine and think, that could be me one day. And yeah, she's still not great at reading lines, but by the time that becomes an issue, she has enough clout that people are willing to find ways to work around that because she's not just Heather anymore, you know? She's Heather, the girl who made autism the hot new thing. Okay, maybe that's not exactly how things would play out, but I do think that's way more likely to happen than Heather finding success by putting all her energy into learning how to walk with eye contact like everyone else. The fact of the matter is that she's never going to be the best model at making eye contact. I think that best case scenario, she works hard enough to become average and then she ends up lost in the crowd. Whether they meant to or not, when they tried to fix Heather, they were telling her that who she was made her undesirable. And I just wonder how things would have been different if instead of trying to change her to make her more conventional, they had put that same energy into helping her change what conventional meant. In a lot of ways, I think that what Heather dealt with on Top Model is something that all neurodivergent people have to deal with. And that's not being allowed to diverge. For so long, we're told that we need to turn ourselves into some ideal. And that makes it that much harder to turn into our ideal selves. But yeah, that's my video. Please like and subscribe and share and comment and super thanks. And go to my Reddit. It's linked below. Share memes with me. I'll probably comment on them. I don't do much. Sometimes I like to fall asleep with Reddit, and the news scares me. So honestly, if this just becomes you guys curating stuff for me to fall asleep to, that would be swell. But yeah, thank you so much. Goodbye. Hello. I am going to try and be quick with this because I have been recording for 25 minutes, and normally my camera only lets me go in 20-minute bursts. So if I cut out randomly, it's because I have greatly exceeded the amount of footage I'm allowed to take in one single sitting, but I don't want to start another clip. Clip? Clip. Why am I taking so much time? I need to pose. God damn it. I think this video is going to be called When Top Model Eliminated a Contestant for Being Autistic. Not sure if that changes how I'm going to pose. Trying to make my eyes bigger. I've heard that bigger eyes are more appealing, but I have teeny little beady eyes. I'm home alone. I'm keeping with my mustache because I just know I've gotten used to it at this point. But it's gotten really bad because I just poke at it. And I've been able to, like, I can chew off hairs with my teeth. So obviously I do that because ADHD is a bitch. And making me think I should shave it to stop myself from doing that. I have no idea why I'm telling you guys this. I think I have one more. Whoa. I'm offended that you eliminated her. I mean, she probably should have been eliminated from the contest. It's just the contest it's set up bad. Is my point. Yeah, I don't know. It's not unfair. What am I doing? Okay, next video won't be top model. I promise. Goodbye.